All right. Welcome everybody to a special live stream from us at GoCloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer, joined today by Mike, not Mike. Mike is on vacation.
Muscle memory.
Yes, Mike.
Sounds like I need a vacation. But I'm joined by Elonzo Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer, and also by two very special guests today. We are joined by Angelo Muniz and Jermaine Houghton, both working enterprise architects out there in the real world, everybody. So we are here to talk about the enterprise architect role. You know, what is about the cloud architect role? What is an enterprise architect? What's a cloud architect? What are the definitions of these? What are the job descriptions for a cloud architect and enterprise architect? You know, we're not actually going to be talking about the actual job descriptions, but we're going to let Angelo and Tremaine tell us what is the meaning of an enterprise architect. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? What's it like for you out there? And of course, I'm sure we're going to be having a lot of questions from the chat box. So I apologize. I am under the weather. If you're in our programs, you know that I missed class this morning. I've got some type of cold, some type of sinus infection. The doctor said, go take some ibuprofen, some Zyrtec, and some Flonase, and you'll be okay. If you're not okay, come back. I'm like, okay, well, sounds like a plan. So here I am, faking it till I make it with some amazing people. But anyway, we only have everyone for a short period of time. They are working. I know Jermaine actually had a last-minute meeting put on the books from 4 o'clock to 4:30 that he doesn't have to be in, but he might get pulled into. I know Angelo has a hard stop at 5 o'clock for a meeting that he has to be in. So let's just get right into it. Alonzo, do you want to say anything first before we get into it?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's thank you, everyone, for near and wide. Wherever you are, thanks for stopping in, checking us out. I think we're going to have a really impromptu but still awesome experience with these two gentlemen. These guys have gone through the whole process of GoCloud Careers, did what needed to be done, provided the discipline, the tenacity, the ability to understand these concepts. And they started from concept to completion right into the door of the hiring manager and got that offer letter. And we want to hear from them. I think you all should stay tuned, focus on what they've got to say, and be able to get some good notes about how you can architect your career right into those successful echelons like they have as well. So I'm ready to get started.
All right. So let me tell everybody about a couple of things before we get to it. So I want to make sure that everybody knows it is Mike's birthday. Today is Mike's birthday. That's why Mike is not here. Mike is on a beach. I think he took the cat, but he did not take the computer. We got Mike to leave the computer at home. So this is exciting.
Yeah.
But while it's his birthday, he's giving everybody a 40% off discount on our programs, not just the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, but also our Tech Interview Training, our Tech Interview Mastery, our Tech Interview Fundamentals, our Secrets to Building the Brand new program that we haven't even made an announcement for yet. It's available on that too. So take advantage of that. The link will be in the chat box. The link will be in the description as well. But that's 40% off. That's one of our largest ever, if not the largest. I can't remember. Got too much going on. But don't miss that. If you've been waiting for something, this is what you've been waiting for. Don't wait any longer. So next thing, when Mike gets back from his vacation, we're going to be doing a Cloud Architect Challenge. So if you want to see what it's like to do a cloud architect, be a cloud architect, come in. We're going to be presenting a business case and designing a solution with you. If you want to try it out and test your skills, do it. If you just want to sit in and see what it's like, come and do it. Sign up for the Cloud Architect Challenge. It's going to be a blast. We always have fun with these. We used to do them a lot. Now we only do them every few months just because we have so much going on. But come in. It's fun. Even if you don't get picked to volunteer for the solution design, you still get to experience and watch what's going on as these people attempt to design a cloud architecture. So those are a couple of things that I wanted to tell everybody about. So without further ado, let's just get straight to it because we only have so much time with everybody. Angelo, tell us about yourself.
Well, first of all, Chris, thank you. I appreciate the chance to be here. I'm excited for our conversation. I'm an enterprise cloud architect. I've got over 20 years experience in healthcare, oil and gas industries. I've been an application architect, a solutions and cloud architect, and now I'm an enterprise architect. loved every minute of it. My passion is really helping businesses and helping people succeed, whether that's with creative technology or even non-technology solutions. So I just look forward to the conversation today and learning from you and collaborating with your audience members.
Oh, learning from me. I like that. I don't hear that very much. So I like to hear that. Thank you, Angelo. Yeah. All right, Jermaine, tell us about yourself.
Yes, my name is Jermaine Houghton. I am currently enterprise architect at SNHU in the OPPI division. I do not come from a tech background. It was a while ago I decided I wanted to move into technology, so I wanted to study. And as a lot of people know, that the end of my studies, I found that I didn't know enough that I felt like I could provide value. One of my greatest things is that I always want to provide over the value that people give me. And I didn't feel I was there. And I signed up for GoCloud, and they got me there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right. So as I mentioned earlier, I know y'all have meetings in and out of the day, and we're trying to dance around those meetings right now. So let's take that and ask, what's it like to be an architect? What do you do? What are you doing on a daily basis or on a weekly basis or just in general? What's the role of the architect like? And I'll leave it. Whoever wants to take that one and run with it, and then we'll go to the next person after that.
You want to go, Jermaine?
Yeah, I was about to say, Angelo. Let me go first, and then Angelo has way more experience than me, right? So let me give you guys in the time that I've been an architect. So for me, coming to the role, didn't really have tons of experience. So currently on a day-to-day basis, what I'm doing is I'm meeting with vendors, right? And I'm taking the vendor technology, understanding what they have, and then bringing it back to my organization to see how it fits our business case. Whatever, I'm mostly working in Google Cloud. So whatever technologies Google has, it's up to me to understand it and work with the Google team to know what the best practices are and how it is best implemented, and then bringing that back to my team. And if there's a business use case for using that particular technology, giving them the best practices, outlining how we should secure those workloads and how we should implement it. And if there's anything going wrong or we don't understand, working with the Google team to understand those problems and overcome them. So a large part of my day-to-day is communicating amongst either the vendors or within the teams internally. Also, I act as a remover of blockers. So if something's going on in the project and it's stalled at a certain point, it is up to me to communicate that throughout the teams and see who I can pull in to remove those blockers. Also, I work closely with our DevOps team in order for them to implement things that maybe I have designed or best practices that I have passed out to them. So on a day-to-day basis, those are things that I'm doing for the most part on my end.
So like Jermaine, yeah.
Go ahead, Angelo. No, I'm good. I'm good. I was just thinking about his process and thinking about what type of frameworks and workflow processes. That's a lot of intersections going on with how you mitigate the risk, how you're speaking with stakeholders, how you have to continue that process. And if there's multiple silos and streams of what you're trying to adopt within your environment, thinking about how that prioritization process happens, and it's just a whole lot of plates that you have to keep spinning to make that happen.
So Angelo, what about you, Angelo?
Well, like Jermaine said, a lot of it is working with people. For me, it's meeting with business partners and really learning the business. A big part of our success comes down to connecting solutions to problems, right? And really providing that value to our business partners. So I also help with strategic planning. I advise executive leadership, and really I help my team achieve goals. Whatever those goals are, we work together on them. I'm in a lot of meetings, do a lot of PowerPoints. And the main thing is In a role like an architect, you are essentially the glue between the business and the technology. And if you can communicate well and translate between the two teams, then you'll be successful.
We were talking yesterday, Angelo, and I told you had to remember a phrase. What was that phrase?
Bi-directional translator.
I like that.
Now tell us what
Yeah.
you mean. Tell us what you mean by that, Angelo. I want to hear Jermaine's thoughts on this.
Yeah, so a bi-directional translator is somebody who understands two different parties and is able to communicate well to both of them, but not just a messaging carrying back and forth, but to understand what each of them really needs and to convert the message from one to be really bring value to the other. So for example, if I'm working with the technology group and we've got our business requirements and they say, hey, we have an issue with this technology because of XYZ, it will, break down over time, or it has some sort of risk or some sort of technical issue. And if I go back and I meet with an executive leader, I'm not going to say that. I have to understand and translate it now to say, if we do this, it will add security risk to the organization, or it will add technical debt, or it will slow us down and we can't get to market as quickly as we would have if we pursue this other option. And then you provide options and recommendations. So bi-directional translator is good at communicating with both groups and finding the value, distilling the messages from both to talk effectively to both teams.
Sounds like a lot of liaison work there, Angelo.
It is. It's fun.
Yeah, and Angelo, exactly correct there. Because a lot of times you have you have technology that needs to be implemented, but comes at a cost. So you have to be able to explain the business value to the leadership teams. A couple examples from my end was we're trying to get an API gateway in place because we are API heavy on our workloads. So we wanted to implement Apigee. Apigee is costly. So I had to go and provide what the business use case are. How are we bringing value from that? Because the technology side is seen as a cost center, right? So as the architect, you have to be able to bring the value out of the technology that you want to implement to explain that to the business stakeholders in a way that this is not a cost, this is the business value that it brings. So a lot of times your engineering team will come to you as the architect to be like, we need this implemented and we need you to be the face in order to get the buy-in from leadership to get this implemented, right? And that's your team. They're going to load you up with enough ammunition that you need in order for you to present the business case to the stakeholders and possibly get that piece of technology implemented, because it helps your team's workflow be easier. So that's I think that's something else that we will touch on later, is building those relationships. And as you are more seen as that person that can get things done, more and more people come to you as a problem solver and as a communication center.
I like that. Yeah, that when you're able to consolidate your value and become that junction, if you will, that definitely creates job security, to say the least, opportunities to enhance your salary. But when I'm thinking from an internal perspective, you're focused more on internals, right, Jermaine? And focusing on your stakeholders. How is that? How are you able to? What is that relationship? How does that look as opposed to an external? I'm thinking, you're not dealing with vendors all the time, but you're dealing with your internal piece. Do you have to maintain more of that relationship base than you would with the vendors?
Yes, and that's a great question, Elonzo, because internally, you do want to maintain really good relationships with your internal teams. You have to understand these are people that you work with every day, and with the stakeholders, what you want to build is trust. Right? You want to know that they know that if you recommended it, that you've done the background research and you're presenting, proper information. So once you build that trust, that's when most stakeholders, they'll be like, hey, we know Jermaine is on it and Jermaine has made this recommendation. We know that he has looked at all of the other tools that are there, and he's doing what's best for the business. Because we'll probably keep going back to this, is something that I didn't first coming in, as an architect first coming, I'm like scared. I'm trying to learn everything. And I need to know all this technology. And one thing I'm going to say is Angelo's been a great mentor to me. Every time I've called him and I've been like, I don't know what to do. Oh my God, what do I do? He's always calm and collective, and he's always asking me about the business. And that's really helped me, because then I go back and I say, well, what is the business doing? What stage of the business are we in? Are we ramping up, right? Are we at a stage where we're already ramped and now we need to optimize? Once I started looking more into understanding those complexities, it's made me a better architect, and it's built better relationships with the stakeholders, because I am understanding the problems that they're facing, because my leadership has leadership, right? And so, I'm always ramping them up so they look good in front of their leadership, and they come to me if they're like, hey, Jermaine, I have a big meeting this week with the president, right? Because above me, it's just one guy, then the president. He's like, hey, I've got to explain to the president what's going on with the budget. And I'm like, hey, I'm always here to help. If you need anything from me, he'll ping me last minute. I'll throw together maybe a PowerPoint or a small presentation in order to give him so that he can bring it to leadership. So now I have that trust with the person above me that whenever he needs anything, it's going to be done, and it's going to be done the right way. So building that internal trust and relationships internally is hugely important. I would say that's probably one of the main things to build.
Yeah, it sounds like you got to stay agile and ready to rock and roll. And while you're creating that value, you're probably building up some sort of repository, if you will, of PowerPoints and flows that you can easily reach for and provide that value for your leadership. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And Angelo's been in the industry for a while, so I'd like to get his input on the relationship side and how that's been throughout his career.
Well, Jermaine's telling part of the story, because when he and I talk, I learn from him too. So something I admire about Jermaine is his people skills, right? He's really great with people. I've always admired and learned from that. So appreciate you too, Jermaine. For me, people and learning about people is so important, whether it's internal or whether you're working with vendors or contractors or whoever it is. People are people. And you invest in people, because as you do and you treat people well and you help them achieve their goals, then it only comes back to you. It comes back to you in the quality work that they do, in that they like you, in that they are more invested in the company and the project. And so being a people person really is one of the first things that you need to learn and focus on as an architect. And you build those relationships, like Jermaine said, by building trust. And you build trust by keeping your word as one of the things. You're consistent, you're honest. And if you say you're going to do something, you do it. You deliver things that will help people achieve their goals, especially your leaders. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Believe that investing in people is the best thing you can do as an architect.
All right, good stuff there. So I want to get to some of these questions here in the chat box, because I know we only have a limited time with you.
Oh man, it's going
we probably won't be able to get through all these questions, but I just want to give it a shot. And now, before I do this first one, do you guys work for a individual company, right? You're not working. You each work for just one entity, right? You're not doing projects. You're not a consultant or doing projects for different clients and things like that, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that I can't answer the first question, but maybe you guys could answer it from a different perspective. Let me know what you guys think. So IC asked, as an architect, do you guys have clients that need a solution that you have no idea how to build? If not, what steps did you take to find the solution and secure the client needs and desires?
Wow.
So maybe we can address this from a, Have you ever encountered anything you don't know about? And I think this ties into something that I know Jermaine wanted to make sure that we talked about, which was obstacles.
Oh, yeah, that does tie in, and that's a good question for me actually, because as someone coming in new, I don't know how to build anything, right? So, the thing is, you're always going to run into something that you do not know how to build. You're going to run into different use cases that you have not seen before, and that goes into your ability as an architect. As an architect, you're there to find the answers, right? Collaborate. I think the foundation of that question is you think that you have to do it yourself, right? And you think that you're alone. The thing is, you're not alone. You don't have to have all the right answers. You can go find the right answers. You can go find the vendor. You can ask the vendor, hey, have you seen this particular use case before? Do you have any example architectures of this? Have you done any use case? You can do some research. A lot of times when I didn't have the answer and I reached out to Angelo, he was like, is there any reference architectures, right? There's an answer out there, and you don't have to build the right solution the first time, right? There's trial and error. You may put together an architecture and it may not be right. Don't be afraid to be wrong. And because it's an agile process as an architect also, right? You may come to the table with something and they decide that's not it. If you're part of an organization that has an ARB, an architectural review board, they may look at that architecture in your design and say, this doesn't meet the use case, right? And then you go back and you do some more research and you're going to find the answer, right? There's no such thing as a solution that has not been found before. It's just that digging deep enough and you'll find it, or working with the right people, you'll find an answer. That's what I found. And when I can't find an answer, I go back to the requirements, right? Make sure that I'm understanding the requirements and the business requirements for what it actually is. Because a lot of times what I was doing was I was overcomplicating things in my head, and it was a simple design in the beginning. That's my answer.
Yeah, I've been there. You overthink and then you over-engineer when all you need, you'll build a bridge and all they need is a plank across the river. So I can understand that. Definitely. What about you, Angelo?
Well, I like Jermaine's answer. And I think also sometimes you have to distinguish between what's a problem and what's a solution. And it sounds simple, but many times customers may come to you and say, I need this thing. I need this solution. And as an architect, you need to pause and say, well, tell me more. Tell me what you're trying to achieve. What are your business outcomes? What are your drivers? Tell me some more about why you feel that's a good solution for you. The underlying thing you're trying to do is discover what the problem is they're trying to solve. It may be a technology solution. It may be a non-tech solution. But as an architect, it's your job to be curious and find out more and ask. And that's how you build trust and build relationships, is you can advise because you're understanding the true problem and not necessarily just fulfilling an order to do some solution. The challenge with just doing a solution is that without knowing the problem is that that's always shifting, and it's risky because if you deliver it and it's not matching the true problem, a solution to that, then the customer they'll be upset, right? Or they'll say, hey, this thing isn't meeting my needs. Why did you do it this way? And it all comes back to understanding the true problem you're trying to solve. So that's the first part about providing a solution. The second is if you don't know how to do it. The other part about an architect is knowing that you're not an island. So you have a team, you have friends, you have colleagues in the industry, you have experts that have already walked this road before you. And so, yes, Google is your friend, but you might have a solution that you need. You understood the requirements. You say, okay, this is actually an access control design that I need, and I need to engage somebody with identity and access management experience. I don't know how to do that, you might say, but I know that this other person does. Let me give her a call, or let me send her an email, or let me talk to him. And so knowing how to contact your teammates, is so key. Having a good network of people and trusted individuals. It doesn't happen overnight. And just one note on that is, just as you're asking, make sure that you're also giving your team. Because if you're just the person to ask all the time and you don't even check in to say, hey, how are you? How can I help you today? Or if you make a design that perhaps would help somebody else and you share it out to the team. And so providing value before you ask is such a key part of building your team and building your relationships.
I like what you said there, and I want to tie that directly into something that's slightly unrelated, but brand. And I only say this because of what I know Angelo does it, and my team, I can do a better job of it, but my team that works with me on a daily basis knows that I do it also. But every time I talk with Angelo always asks me, is there anything I can do for you? What can I do for you? I can do a better job of doing that with people that are outside my organization, but inside my organization, apparently everybody waits for me to end the conversation by saying, if you need me, you know where to find me. So, but it sticks out that, like, anytime I talk with Angelo's always asking me, what can he do for me? And I know I can do a better job of that, but it's just, so I like how you made it. It's truly very important to not be a taker.
Oh yeah.
When that a relationship is not one-sided. It's a two-way relationship. So I'm glad you added that in there, because you will build a brand as that person that's a taker.
Oh yeah.
And then eventually nobody's going to give. So.
You know, I'm thinking, guys, one of the things that I wanted to emphasize to our audience is that not once have they talked about the tech at all. Getting on the command line, they have not said anything about any specific kind of text that they're building, but they emphasized a lot of the relationships that they need to cultivate for them to solve problems. And it is definitely a community-based, bi-directional communication, as Angelo had specified. So I think that it's just really important that A, you're not an island, B, your resources are all around you, just like they are in the actual community with so many people. I mean, you think about people all over the world. I mean, I just spoke with someone who's actually from Syria who relocated to America. And you think about people from all over the world who are coming together to do this same thing in this incubator that they're going to be applying in the real world. So I just really love the parallels that we have here and how they've leveraged their skill set to become the people that they are today. It's awesome.
I actually have a funny story about touching the technology. It's two-sided now. And as an architect, you should be able to go through the documentation and maybe build it out of the documentation. Maybe if you need a proof of concept for if you're working for different customers, right? I am not in a position like that, right? Because I'm an enterprise architect, I am not hands-on, but I know a little bit about coding. And like we talk about, I am a communication center where a lot of teams come to me. So our front-end dev manager reached out to me. We were on the same team about this platform we were building. And we were on the same team. Our DevOps team was not pulled in yet. So building out a proof of concept, they needed a back end and a database. Because I know, some engineering stuff and I can build it, I was like, oh yeah, no problem. Collaborate, call me up, and we did an hour and I built it out for the team. So my excitement, I'm talking to my DevOps manager. We have a really close relationship also. And I was like, yeah, Anton hit me up and they need a back end. So I went ahead and built it out for him. And he was like, what? He was like, he was like, what are you doing? Why didn't you pull us in? He was like, Jermaine, listen, if you were there and you're building this stuff out, what is my team going to do? Right? Like,
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. You can build it. That's fine. Right. But you have to understand that if you're doing this work, you're taking away work from my guys. And if they don't have anything to do, then why are they here? Why are we paying the money? And it was one, that communication was because we have a really, really good relationship, right? But if we didn't have that relationship and you did something like that at your job, that might be somebody who now is against you because you thought you did something good, right?
Yeah.
I'm not there to touch the tech. Right? I am mostly there to provide guidance and best practices with technology. But I thought that was funny because I was like,
you better be glad that you had a good relationship with that guy.
Yeah,
that wouldn't
have turned out too well.
No.
That is definitely Mike's version of the cloud engineer doing architect doing cloud engineer work. So
yeah,
that's one for the books.
Well, and Elonzo says that all the time. It's like if the employer truly wanted you to do all these things, what the hell are they paying them for? So, but I'm glad you shared that. But I've got a question here from Richard. And I don't know if either of you know Richard, but Richard's in the program. He's going to be the next one of you guys, I guarantee you. But Richard asked, and I'd like for both of you to clarify this. Jermaine or Angelo, you can correct this if it's wrong or say it's correct. Both of you had tech stocks, aka tech background, before joining and getting hired. How much part did the tech play in the success, and how much of the business was instrumental in the success?
Nice question, Richard, as usual.
So we'll start with Angelo. Angelo, I know you had a tech background. So how much would you say the tech background played into it, and how much would you say the business plays into your success, if you had to differentiate between tech and business?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. That's a good question. So for me, it was a combination of both, but there's an additional part of that, which is your soft skills, right? You can go in and be solid on business and you're just data, but you're not communicating well, you're not smiling, you don't look comfortable, you're sweaty. And so all these things send a clear message to your employer that, can I put this person in front of my stakeholders? And so the third component there, which is the secret sauce, the magic potion, if you will, is your soft skills. And so to answer specifically business or tech, the ratio, it depends on who you're talking to and throughout the interview process. And so if you're talking to, for example, another architect, or if you're talking to an engineering manager, then you'll have to be more tech. If you're talking to an executive, let's say it was a CIO, then you have to speak the things that she or he might be more interested in. And so if you're talking to the CEO, you're going to be talking more vision and more business value, more time to market. And so it just depends on who you're talking to. At different stages in the interview process, you'll need to leverage both of those skill sets, technical, business, but throughout any of them, you'll need to really rely on your soft skills.
And thank you, Angelo. And Jermaine, do you have a tech background?
Yeah, I'm glad Angelo went first because I can always cheat off his answers, right?
Yeah. So do you have a tech background, and how much did that play into this versus the business?
Yeah, so I didn't have a working tech background. I had a studying tech background. I did do some on my own coding and just studying the technology. Now that helped in the technical interviews and the studying. But honestly, what got me hired was, like Angelo said, was the soft skills. Because in my hiring process, it was between me, a new to enterprise architect, and a 20-year enterprise architect, right? So the reason why I was chosen was because of the soft skills. Everyone from the beginning interview all the way until the fourth interview really liked my enthusiasm and my personality and the way I spoke. Even when you speak about the tech, if you have a tech background, can be a negative or a positive because you know it so well, you may speak about it in a manner that's boring. But if you speak about it as someone with enthusiasm, people like to see that person on their team. And I give this to some people who are interviewing right now, because I interview people now. And in some interviews, it'll be 1 minute in the interview and they're already messaging me like, this is not our guy, right? And it's because of how the person comes on, how they presenting themselves, and their enthusiasm level, right? So like Angelo says, the tech is important and the business is important, but honestly, your soft skills can outshine both of those. If you're lacking in either one of those departments, you can make it up with your soft skills. But you do have to understand the tech, like Angelo explained. If you're speaking with an engineer, he's definitely going to want to know, hey, do you know which database we will use in this use case? Do you know what a load balancer is going to do? To get past him. But once that interview is over with and you're speaking with the CIO or anybody else, your soft skills is what's going to come into play.
All right, everybody. So I'm going to go a little out of order. I'm actually not going to go into any kind of order with these questions because we're not going to be able to do all the questions. So I am cherry picking. I will say this. I am cherry picking questions. Probably the only time I've ever cherry picked questions on any of our live streams. And it's only because we've got time constraints today. So if your question didn't get answered, I'm not picking on you. I promise. It has nothing to do with you. I'm just going by the questions. So here's a question. Can you explain exactly if you do any designing and what kind? So let's talk about that. So what are you guys doing? Are you designing things? And then and I'm going to put this one behind it so that it can, because I feel like it goes naturally in the order with it. How many days or hours do you have to present when you've got a design? So let's talk about that, guys. If you have the ability to, obviously, I don't want specifics about anything that you're working on for your organization, but if you could talk about that, what's that process like for you guys?
Yeah, I'll go first so I don't cheat off Angelo's answers.
I might cheat off yours.
So yeah, currently, and actually that's what I was working on before this, because I'm actually just designing some stuff for our disaster recovery efforts. But I'm not spending a lot of time designing. Most of my time is spent in meetings, moving meetings forward, helping to actually, I'm approving designs at this point. So understanding how the designs are, I'm part of an architecture review board that I put together. I'm actually the chair of the architecture review board. So so that I'm not a single point of failure, we have different members from QA, from DevOps, from security. And what I put together is somebody wants something implemented. We need to know what's the business use case, what's the cost, what's the time for implementation, and what is the architecture. So me and my team look at that, make sure it meets the business requirements of the organization, and we can approve it, or we can say, hey, this needs to go back through. It doesn't meet the security constraints, or it doesn't meet our compliance constraints, and then that's pushed back through. So I'm not really doing a lot of designs. I'm looking at vendor designs, and I'm collaborating with the architects from the vendors to see what they put together and to see if it meets our use case. That way, for me, I'm not doing double work. Because when I first started working, I was trying to solution everything and architect everything. But as I learn more and more, it's about getting the job done and getting the right things implemented for the organization more than me putting down the design and thinking that this is the solution, right?
Right.
You gotta, as an architect, you got to take out of your head that I want to be right, and you design something and you marry it, right?
Yeah.
That is not it. It's whatever is best for the organization. So to answer the question, I'm not really spending a lot of time doing designs or architectures. I'm mostly looking over vendors' designs and learning more about our environment.
Yeah, I think what you just said ties into what I've started to say over the past year is Mike always says design, present, and sell, and I'm saying we need to put like a lowercase research, design, research, present, and sell. But that research actually seems to be a lot of the actual work, because what you just described sounds like researching and reviewing and reading documentation and information. So I've started, me at least personally, I've started to put that researching into the design part, because it doesn't fit into the present part and it doesn't fit into the sell part, but it fits into the design. But Angelo, what would you say to that? about what it's like designing or not designing or
Yeah. So as an architect, your part of your duty is to design. Now, what you design is quite a different question, which is what the way I'm going to interpret and answer this question. So what you design is based on the problem you're addressing. It's also dependent on the audience you're addressing. So for example, if we say that we've got this challenge, and let's say you're trying to come up with a solution to improve the customer experience. You need to get this product out to your customers faster because you've noticed, you've gotten feedback from the field that customers are abandoning their shopping carts on an e-commerce site. And you say, okay, well, why are they doing that? Have we found out? Well, come to find out, you may have 7 steps to check out of your shopping cart online. And you say, okay, well, why is that? Why do we have 7? Well, it was designed that way for XYZ reason. As you start to ask why each time, you discover the problem, right? And then you can say, okay, now what can we do to resolve that? And then you start designing things around it. It may be a technical solution, it may be non-tech. And so that's the first part of it, is designing a solution, understanding the challenge you're facing. The other part is the audience, which is communicating to different audiences. And we've touched on this already, but this is a key part of designing. When you present a solution, and this is part of how you present yourself as well, 58% of communication is visual, right? The other 35 is verbal, how you sound. And the last 7 is what you actually say, right? And this was proven by Harvard and others. I think Morabian was the one who actually discovered this. So visually explaining and telling a story is so key, because as human beings, we're wired to receive stories, understand them, relate to them, and retell them and remember them. So if you come in and say, hey, we've got 30% of waste because people keep abandoning their shopping carts, and say, okay, well, what does that mean, right? If you're telling an executive that, a CEO, how does that challenge tie back to business value, to revenue, to time to market, all of those things, right? Risk. And so you have to then phrase it in a way that you're designing and presenting this solution or potential solution to whoever your audience is. So that's how I would explain designing, and that as an architect, you're always designing, but before you do, understand the problem and the audience.
All right, good stuff there. Thank you, gentlemen. And just so you know, Jermaine, Reza is looking out for you there. He thought you had a 4:30, but it was that you were on standby from 4 to 4:30. So he's over there in the chat box like, Jermaine had a 4:30.
The community is always looking after its own.
Yeah. So, but Angelo does have a 5 o'clock. So,
yeah.
I want to get to this question, then I'll let Angelo share any last words that he has before he has to leave. And then Jermaine can stay around as long as he wants to, and I'm sure he'll have to eventually leave us as well. But Pernell, and I'm gonna remold this question. Do you have generic cloud architect roles on your team? If yes, can you explain their responsibilities within the company? And is the role expected to focus on specialization? So I'll let you guys answer that question about a generic role, but then also if you could talk about what your team are, the resources, the team resources that you might have available to you in your organization, what that's like. And well, just for fun, just so that it doesn't get too continuous, we'll let Angelo go, then I'll ask Jermaine, and then we'll have Angelo say some last words.
Okay. So picture this in your mind. Imagine that you have some stacks of wood, right? And if you're familiar with that game Jenga, you have the little blocks of wood that stack on top of each other. Okay. So picture that in your mind. Each of those levels is a different part of the business. So the very first top layer is vision. Your chief executive officer is in charge of casting the vision. The vision is where we want to be in X number of years, or however we're going to measure that. We want to be the best service provider in AI security, as an example. And the next block down is going to be your mission. In other words, who are we? What makes us special? We're going to achieve this goal because of our excellent customer service, or through community outreach, or through XYZ, whatever it is. The next little Jenga block down, the wood block, is a strategy. That's your how. So it's saying, how are we going to achieve this vision? And so in that block, you're going to have things like leverage AI technology, leverage large language models, collaborate, build a brand, and research customer service options. So that's strategy. Below that is called tactics, right? And your tactics now are one level below your strategy. So in the example, let's say one of them was leverage large language models, right? So one of the tactics might be partner with OpenAI. Another tactic might be research open source solutions. Another tactic might be find best value with contract negotiation, whatever it is. So that's the backdrop to answering this question. And still keep in mind the picture that we started with. You have these Jenga blocks. So the enterprise architect focuses mostly on the top two: vision, mission, and then strategy. So the top three, right? They have some little bit of overlap with the tactic level. So that's where you start getting into applications and solutions and cloud migrations and heavy duty security architectures and network diagrams and things like that, right? So it's very almost solution specific or application specific. Yes, you have to know how the other applications interact with each other, but typically it's, you know, one system like an ERP or a CRM, what have you. So after that, the cloud architect now that's where he or she focuses on some little bit of strategy, but they're on the tactical level. So they start to then work on specific solutions because they've interviewed the enterprise architect, or they've interviewed your chief information officer or your chief technology officer or your stakeholders. And so they can then craft solutions based on those requirements. So this question about, do we have generic architects? That's where they focus, right? And knowing that you do need cloud architects, you do need generic cloud architects, but you also need a whole suite of different architects, right? You need IAM architects, you need network architects, security architects. And so you can't, again, going back to that phrase, no person is an island, right? You do need a team, and it's that team that succeeds together or they fail together. And being an architect is being able to lead the team, inspire them, and help them to achieve their goals.
All right. Thank you for that, Angelo. And I do know that you've got your 5 o'clock. So if you want to share any last words with us, with the audience, that you want to, anything you want to make sure that they hear from you, feel free. And then we'll let Jermaine give his response to this, and we'll let you go. So.
All right. Yes. Well, I've really enjoyed this. This hour has just flown by, you know.
Yeah.
And so we've been having so much fun talking. I love this.
Oh, hey, if you guys want more of Angelo, I forgot. Angelo's teaching class this Saturday for everybody. So if you're not in the program, sign up and come to class on Saturday. If you are in the program, come to class on Saturday. And you'll get more Angelo, I promise. So anyway, last words, Angelo.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. So for me, I would just give a word of encouragement. Be patient with yourself. Work hard. Make your plan. And really put in the effort to work your plan. Yeah, you'll have ups and downs. You'll have down days. You'll have up days. But just keep with it. Study your architectural principles. Make sure you focus on people skills, what they call soft skills. And really learn how to understand and work with people. Work with people who might be giving you a challenging situation, or work with people whenever they're, doing great. Compliment your team members, really develop those leadership skills and people skills. And then, of course, you can't forget the tech, because the tech is kind of the underpinning of what drives all the business, right? In other words, the business is successful because of the technology underpinnings. So focus on both and your soft skills. Don't give up, and you guys will do great.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Angelo. And if you want to, you're more than welcome to stick around, and you can just disappear whenever you need to. And I just wanted to make sure you had that opportunity to give any words that you wanted to.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it, everybody. And we'll talk again soon.
Always a pleasure to see you,
Angelo. Thanks, Angelo.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All right. Let's see. Did you want to provide a response about the generic cloud architect? Or did you want to go to the next question?
Jerry? Oh, no. Yeah, Angelo was completely correct. At my organization, we do have those tiers, like enterprise architect sits here, and then there's supposed to be I'm more like the manager or mentor for those cloud architects, infrastructure architects, and solutions architects. And there's data architect. So there's different specialized positions under there. And I was reading a good book, and it shows you that it showed a career ladder of an architect, and it showed the more you were in tune with the tech, the more you stay at this level, and the more you get in tune with the business, was the more you your career can push further. Because at infrastructure architect, there is a cap at how far you can go to. Right? But once you start meshing what the business needs are with the technology, then you can be the VP, you can be the president of an organization, because you understand what's driving those technical requirements. So to answer the question, yes, there is different architect roles at our organization. We were supposed to start hiring this month, but we had a hiring freeze for a while. But my VP assures me that we're going to get at least 2 or 3 more architects on our team, because currently I'm functioning as all of those roles. Right? We're like, yeah, let's call Jermaine.
Red line in full throttle.
Oh, all right. So and just let us know when we need to wrap it up, Jermaine. So next question from AO: how was the cloud program at GoCloud?
Yes. Awesome question, man. Because they're asking me to market here.
I'm not asking.
They ask. Not you guys. The question is asking. So honestly, the reason why I'm back here was because this was a great program. Not just the program itself, but the community. The only way I was able to accomplish what I'm able to accomplish and be where I am is because of the teammates that I had from GoCloud that were there to help me. Angelo was pivotal in helping me along the way whenever I was confused. Ruth, I was telling her today, Ruth, we need to get you on one of these. Ruth is an inspiration, and she is so humble, right, for the vast amount of knowledge that she had. Got to give you guys a story about that. Ruth reached out to me to help her, right, in her interviews. And Ruth I was helping her, but I was like, Ruth, you are awesome. Why do you need my help? And finding out about these people, and every step along the way, whenever it was, and I was getting rejected for job after job, I would get called from Ruth, Deucer, and Angelo, and Yvonne Tamba, right? So the program is awesome, and I see that it keeps getting better and better. I'm really jealous now because there's some stuff I want to return for training, right? As far as the architect training. But guys, use your community, reach out to each other. For a lot of people reach out to me, and I try to help as much as I have the time. And it's because of those people that have helped me, the Bruce, the Deucer, and also Chris. Every time I've had an interview and I was like, man, here I'm sending Chris another one. He's got to send all this stuff over. He's never had a bother or anything. They send a great recommendation. Mike did an awesome recommendation for me for one position. And at the end, the company closed the position out. And it was like, you kind of sometimes in life you get tired of going to ask people for stuff, but this team is truly a team. It's not like any other program you would sign up for where they're like, hey, here's the videos, go watch them. We wish you the best. This program definitely has your back. The reason I'm one of those consumers that I don't purchase anything, right? I'm cheap, but I purchased this course in one day. I saw Mike on YouTube. I called Chris, and just me telling Chris what my situation was and him, being a real person with me, I was like, you know what? I am buying this, right? And I have zero regrets.
Oh, well, thank you for that glowing recommendation. So let's see here. So you mentioned earlier about you being on the architecture review board. Kevin asked, what happens if what you approve is not successfully pushed through? Can you, without going into too many details about the specifics of your organization, can you talk about what a little bit more about that process?
Yeah, and great question, Kevin. So the thing is, an architect, you are a consultant. You're there to give what you think is the best path forward. Doesn't mean that it has to get implemented. What you're documenting is, this is what I think is the best solution. You're not saying this 100% has to be right. And that's something that I had to release myself, was the need to be right. Like, I put this great thing out there and this is what they went with. We were supposed to implement, for example, a feature flagging service. And I did all the research. I looked at all the different vendors and I picked the best one. I liked it. A couple of my product managers have already worked with it. They loved it. My DevOps manager, he loved it. The Google team, they loved it. Another vendor we have, they loved it. At the end of the day, it cost too much, right? So we did not go with that one. We had to choose something open source. It is what's for the best for the business at that particular time. So at this particular time in the business, that cost wasn't something they were willing to take on. So what we have to do, we reroute, we find another solution that can work with the business requirements. We implement that, but we have it documented what was suggested. So if there's a rollback, we can just roll back and say, hey, this was what was suggested through the ARB. We can roll back to this. Or when we go into another stage of the business and we are in a scale up part of the business, then we can purchase that technology. But that's what happens when something doesn't go through.
Yeah, I think that documentation is critical because it doesn't just serve that purpose. It serves the purpose of, let me not do this again.
Yeah,
that's already been rejected. Like, let's,
Yeah, and
so,
something
that documentation is so critical.
It is. Couldn't agree more.
A good thing as an architect, a good practice that I'm finding is when you're doing your document and people are buying in, on that documentation, you get people to put their name on documentation that they buy in, because if something fails, there's no finger pointing. You don't want finger pointing. You want solutioning, right?
Yeah.
Somebody can't be like, well, I didn't agree with that solution anywhere.
Right.
On paper, who agreed with it, and this is why we move forward it, but we're not looking to look backwards. How do we implement something new? So whenever someone buys in, you get them to sign off.
Yeah.
Yeah, those type of artifacts are key. You see those a lot in architecture frameworks, as well as program and project management too. So it's vital. It saves a lot of headache.
So here's another question. So as an enterprise architect, can you talk about some of the pain points that you've identified that the audience might be able to learn more? I guess this might be something they can learn more about to be able to figure out how to talk about in interviews.
Yeah. So as an enterprise architect, on my level, what we talk about is because we're more looking not at the current infrastructure design, we're looking at what technologies we have implemented in the business. And if there's, when you get to a large scale organization, they might have 5 technologies that do the same thing, right? So how do you take account of the inventory, right? What do you guys have implemented in that organization? And how do you get rid of some stuff, right? How do you cut the fat a little bit and optimize and take that down? So looking at the enterprise inventory is big as an enterprise architect, and looking to see if everything meets the business use case. When you get to enterprise, everything is about the business and less about the technology. And you're looking to say, does this fit what we're trying to do as a business? We're currently going through that now. We had like 5 different softwares that did the same thing as Jira. And we had Jira, AHA, I forgot the name of a couple of them. But we went in and looked at the inventory and say, hey, these are all accomplishing the same things. You have some people in the organization that are using one, and the design department is using this other one, but they all do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to trim the fat here. If we get rid of this and only use this technology, it'll meet all our use cases. Or we're with a particular vendor, like we're with ServiceNow, and we're using them for one use case, but they have things that fit other use cases that we need, but we're using a different vendor where we can say, okay, we don't need to be using as a configuration management database where we're trying to implement our own, but ServiceNow has one that we already have a contract with them. How do we leverage those contracts? So those are the pain points when it comes to the enterprise side, is how do you trim the fat and make sure everything is aligned with the business use case?
Yeah. So you think, so when it comes to percentages, we talk about cloud architects being 50% tech, 50% business. Would this be more of 80% business and maybe 20% tech?
Yes, it does switch over to that, because like I said, as you be able to move up further, the more you are in touch with the business side and less with the technology. Most days I am not in technology meetings. I'm in business requirements and with business stakeholders, and just talking about what the business is and what the future of the business is. So you'll be doing a lot of collaboration. If you're in just a regular architect interview and you want to talk about the enterprise side, talk about an ARB, an architecture review board, and how that avoids a single point of failure in decision making. Because in some organizations, they have one person who's technically savvy and everything gets implemented because it's what they say. They're the only technical person there, or they're seen as the technical expert. We've had situations like that, and things were implemented that ran costs out the door and maybe had to be pulled back. So that's a good point to touch on, is that if you implement an ARB, you avoid single points of failure when it comes to implementing new technology.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
So you may or may not remember Marla. Marla's got a question. She had to take a long pause from the program. She believes, and yes, I agree, and I'm sure you would too, her communication skills are solid. But now I'm back and ready to prepare for interviews. Any advice on where I should focus tech-wise to prepare to speak knowledgeably if going for a cloud or enterprise architect? Love your feedback.
Yes, and I do remember Marla. Marla is here in Atlanta with me, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I remember Marla. I never forget. So Marla is ready. A big part of this is communication skills, and Marla reminds me of Ruth, who's also another, like I said, wonderful communicator. You can tell the power in their voice when they speak. You have what it takes. I don't think there's anything tech-wise that can trip you up. If they're asking a bunch of tech questions, probably not the position for you anyway. I think you're ready for architect or even enterprise level architect. It's just finding the right position. I don't think you're lacking anything.
So I think I would to speak to this tech part, I would probably, and this is just my recommendation, whatever you're already most comfortable and most familiar with tech-wise, figure out how to make that your shut down the interview. Whatever piece of technology you are most knowledgeable about already, can figure out how to communicate that effectively. What would you say that's a, because that's what she's asking about here, is the tech, like what should she prepare for tech-wise?
Yeah, most of the time in an interview, there is what they ask you is if they ask you to design something, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Most of the time, and when they've asked me to design something, they wanted me to collaborate. They wanted me to ask more questions. right? So I had an interview with Microsoft, and they asked me, "Hey, let's design a system for a hospital." And I asked like 1 or 2 questions, but then I just started designing. At the end, they were like, "Listen, we loved you, but we wish you would have asked more probing questions to figure out what it was that we wanted to do in the beginning." They were like, "Your collaborative efforts were wonderful, but ask more questions." And if you're stuck in an interview, especially if they give you that layup to be like design something, Mike has done the 3
So we're not crazy having a multi-page 200 questions that should be asked by an architect document.
Yeah. No, you're not. No, you should ask questions, and more questions, and then design last. You're looking for those questions, and then when you get down to the design, once you hear the answers for those questions, you're gonna know what you want to build. Worst case scenario, build a 3-tier architecture, something that you've seen done multiple times.
Can't go wrong with that. Yeah.
You don't have to go to something complex or like we're going to implement Kubernetes or Docker or anything like that, but understand what those things are. Microservices are really big now for a lot of organizations. So just understanding what Docker does and some of what Kubernetes does, because a lot of organizations are moving to microservices and they want their architects to be aware of these technologies.
And that's why we got people like Angelo and Lohit teaching classes for us.
Yeah.
Yes. I need to chime in. Lohit did a design one time and I missed it. And I keep trying to find that microservice architecture he did.
I'll send you the link. I just went through every recording this weekend. So
please,
I know exactly where everything is.
Yes. And guys, if you're out there, listen, I can't see who's on YouTube. Whenever you have the opportunity to chime in when Angelo is there, and that is where I strive to be with his poise, the way he answers questions, the way he brings understanding. Get on as many calls with Angelo as possible with GoCloud. That is like, that's free right there. That's free value all day.
But the beauty of that is that he's not the only one. There's so many people in the program.
There's a lot of new. I don't see new people.
But you know that, like, I'm sure there were some when you were going through the program that had that exact same thing. And we encourage the people in the program constantly go out there and work with your fellow people, because they've got things that I could never give you, like that, just by the nature of their 20 or 30 years of experience. They've learned how, in Angelo's case, learned the poise and learned the communication and learned the gravitas. And Marla's got it.
Yeah.
Ruth's got, these people
telling that story as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said that. And so it's not just tuning in when particular people are teaching, but just reaching out to the people that are already part of the community with you.
Yes, exactly. And leverage each other's strength. Like somebody who may be struggling with the communication efforts, reach out to a Marla and get some advice from her. Or if you're struggling with the technical aspect, you reach out to somebody who's technical sound and you work together like that. Some people reached out to me as far as being on the DevOps side and about microservices and things like that. And I just passed on the resources that I've had. And they're like, Jermaine, man, thank you. I was able to get through this interview because of the things that you told me. And I'm like, well, thank you, because I was able to get through this interview because of the communication things that you taught me. And it's really just a big collaborative effort. That's one of the keys to GoCloud. A lot of other programs, they do not do this. I've signed up for Linux Academy. I forgot what it was. It was just me and videos, right? And that was it. It was enough to get me to pass the certification, but that's when I was like, this isn't enough to step in front of the interviewers or in front of a panel and present myself well. I would have gotten destroyed.
Yeah. So back to the chat box here. What do you consider to be the top 3 essential skills for a cloud architect to effectively drive digital transformation? Top 3.
Purnell with the hard questions.
Yes. Okay. Were you surprised from anybody in our community?
Purnell comes with the smoke.
I think we touched on this before, Chris. We talked about the soft skills, right? Because you have to, and the soft skills, communication, and some kind of you do have to have some technical somewhat of technical depth. The soft skills, because you're going to have to communicate between multiple channels to get these things done, right? You're going to have to communicate with different departments, because some departments, because you're doing digital transformation, you have to consider change management, right? You may just be thinking, hey, we're going to build this awesome thing that's going to automate everything, but that's also going to put a whole department out of work, right? So you have to consider those things, and that's where the soft skills and the situational awareness and a lot of things that Mike talks about comes into play, right? Also,
I got a story about situational awareness and change management. I'm going to get to after you finish.
So those were the three. Let's say soft skills, a little bit of technical depth, and communication. Those are severely important because you will be communicating time after time with stakeholders, with vendors, within digital transformation. If you have a vendor that has a particular solution, you have to communicate with them about the implementation. How is this implementation going to get done? And then what is the time frame for this? You have to bring that back to your stakeholders and communicate to them. So those are the three essential skills to have.
So I'd like to hear your thoughts on implementing a major change that affects all of your customers on the same day that your support office is closed.
Oh, don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. What about if it's a day that you voluntarily chose to close your support office?
Oh, yeah, no major changes. Listen, don't push code to production before the weekend, right? Don't make any major changes before support is closed, right?
It's
so
a
that goes into change management, communication, implementation, all these like situational awareness. Like, yeah, okay. I'll tell you about
that was made on Monday or Friday.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that one offline, Jermaine. That one was a fun situation. Nothing happened, thankfully, but whew, that was an interesting couple of days.
All right, I have 12 more minutes, guys.
Okay, cool. I know I've got at least one question I know I want to get to. And then we'll kind of go from there. Let me find this question I know I want to get to. Here we go. I've never worked in programming, but I do have knowledge. Can I become a cloud architect?
Okay, Muhammad, you are me.
You're most people.
Yeah, a good portion.
So I've never worked in programming, but I had an understanding of software development lifecycle for things that I've built myself, just practicing, or just from me trying to learn more about technology. It doesn't matter if you've worked in programming before or not. 90% of the people that I work with are not technical. And every meeting I get on, everybody's like, listen, I'm not technical. We'll leave that to Jermaine, right? And I'm like, well, I'm not technical either. But you don't have to be, and you can throw that out the window where you don't have to be super technical in these roles. As an architect, understand what the vendor has and just have the ability to, you as an architect, you're going to read. You're going to be reading documentation. You're going to be reading best practices. And as long as you can read, you can be an architect, right? As long as it is reading and understanding what the vendor has built and how does it help my organization, especially if you're with a consulting company that you're helping multiple clients. You're never going to go into a client understanding every solution that they have. And I think if you're a programmer, you're still not going to understand. You'll understand how it works, but you'll be faced with a solution, with a business problem that you have to come up with a solution for. So the thing that helps you with that is understanding what you're going through now and studying the cloud technology, right? And in the cloud, they're consistently building new things. You will never be able to know everything that AWS has or everything that Google has or Azure has. But as you start getting that business use case and you start, hey, you might have to call up the vendor. This goes with the communication skills is the number one skill an architect can have. You might have to call up the vendor and say, hey, I'm looking for something for this particular use case. What do you guys have? Have you seen this particular use case before? is there any reference architectures for this, right? And you bring that back to your client. So if you've never worked in programming, that is not an obstacle that you have to surmount, right? You just have to build on your strengths of either your people skills, your situational awareness, and understanding of cloud technology, the fundamentals.
Yeah, I think that's the important part. It's you have to know the tech, but you have to learn it the right way. You have to learn the right part of tech, not the programming, the coding, the configuring, and all that stuff. But you have to know how all of the fundamental technology works. Yeah. And so that's critical. So I'm glad you shared that, because Mohammed, you've not done programming. Great.
Good.
You're in a
perfect. You have to reverse all the.
Yeah. Didn't you hear I got in trouble for programming?
Yeah. Exactly. So I've got one more question, then I'll let you share any last words with us. So referring to when you were in the program, if you were working, how did you balance time while in the programming and other activities?
Yes, good question. While I was in the program, I was running my own small business, but what the program actually helped me to do was to get prepared for working in a technical role, especially working remotely, because those meetings that are day to day, those are just like meetings you'll be having when you are working. Maybe not as large a group, but it'll be the same setting. You'll be on Teams or on Zoom, and you have to get in meetings. What I would suggest is also, when you guys are in these meetings, participate whenever you can, right? Because you're not going to be able to be at work and just be off camera and in the back not saying anything. So, treat it like it's a job. And that's what I did. I treated it like a job. I was like, hey, 9 o'clock on this day, I have to be at the computer in the office for this many hours. If not, what I did also was, if I was in the car, I would go through all of the old videos and tapes. If I had a 6-hour drive, I would put Mike on 2x speed, because Mike talks slow. I would put Mike on 2x speed, and I would listen, and I would take all that in, and I would participate in the regular classes. Somebody that's working, you may not be able to make every class, but just come back, watch the recordings, try to stay up to date, and make as many classes as you can. Treat it like this is my architect job. And that also helped me, because whenever I was in an interview and they asked me what's my day to day, I just explained what we did on Zooms, because that is that is the job. If you sat and Mike did architecture and everyone collaborated, then if you're in an interview and they ask you, how did you collaborate with your teammates? Say, hey, me and my team of professional architects, we have data architects, we have infrastructure architects, and network architects, and we sit and we design the right solution for the business problem, right? That is the truth, because that's what you're doing on these meetings on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that, Jermaine. And I know you got 6 minutes left. And I'm going to argue you got less than 6 minutes, because you actually got to get ready. So and switch over. So do you have any last words that you want to share with the people on the chat box, on the YouTube or the LinkedIn?
Yeah, and I think I talked to you about this earlier, Chris. One thing I wanted to touch on was one of the first assignments that Mike gave us was the overcoming obstacles assignment. And take a look back at that assignment, and because that's going to help you in your future as a cloud architect. It's going to help you when you're interviewing. There's going to be obstacles there. You're going to knock it out the park at some interviews, and you're not going to get a call back, right? How are you going to deal with that situation? Are you going to say, this is not for me? Or are you going to say, you know what? My revenge is to get even better than I was for that interview, so I can kill the next one, right? It's all about how you overcome these obstacles that will be put in front of you, because GoCloud can give you the tools, but you're expected to implement. It's like the military. They can train you, but you are the one that's going to be in the field. And how you overcome obstacles without these guys being right there for you with the training they've given you is basically what's going to help you to land that position. And also, when you land that position, that's what's going to help you in that position to persevere and become successful, because there will always be an obstacle that's in your way. You know, you may have to deal with a manager that you feel like, hey, this manager doesn't like me, or some sort of obstacle. Me, I deal with every obstacle with I call it PMA, positive mental attitude. One obstacle I thought was going to be for me at my position was the guy that me and him are best friends now. I thought he was going to be a challenge, but because of I overcome everything with a positive mental attitude, that's how I faced it, and now we've become best friends. So I believe that assignment is one of the most important in the program. Mm-hmm. So go back, take a look at it, and whenever the chips are down, go back and look at that and look what you said for that particular time in your life when you're facing an obstacle, and say, hey, let me implement what's on this paper, right? I'm going to do what I said I do. I'm not going to fold. I'm not going to go under. I'm going to use what I told Mike I do in these situations and implement it and overcome this obstacle. So,
well said. Well said. I like that.
Yeah. There's a reason why we put these assignments in the program. We start with the about you, and then the overcoming obstacles, because you gotta look inside yourself, not to get too philosophical here. You gotta look inside yourself and be able to realize what you've already accomplished and what you've already done, and how you can learn from those things. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome. Really appreciate you guys for having me up here.
Thanks
This
so
is
much.
an honor, right, to be considered. So, and anybody that's in the program, you know, if you reach out to me, I'm willing to help anytime I can. If you reached out to me and I haven't gotten back to you, maybe busy in my schedule, but I will get back and try to help any way I can. All right.
Pleasure having you again and seeing you again, Jay.
Thanks, you. Bye, Jermaine. All right. Well, I enjoyed this. This was a great conversation, great surprise. Elonzo, anything you want to share or reflect on that we just heard?
Oh, well, where do I begin? But I just think that I hope my main takeaway or main thoughts are making sure everyone had a great takeaway from all these gems that both Jermaine and Angelo dropped. I hope you all had some notes. You all come together collaboratively to try to emphasize any things that you need to overcome. Please focus on your strengths. Help each other. Iron sharpens iron. And I think a lot of you all will get a lot further along and reach your goals faster together than you would alone. So I really, really am excited for everyone who attended. Share the word about what happened. Share this video, how it can help other people reach their goals. And that's all I can say about it. I had a great time.
Absolutely. I did as well. And just to remind everybody, you know, if you liked what Angelo had to say, you can hear more from Angelo. He teaches in our program. If you're one of our students, make sure to tune into class on Saturday. He will be teaching. If you're not in the program, sign up today. We've got Mike's 40% off birthday discount. Tyrone will put that in the chat box, and it's in the description. If you sign up today, you can join today and hear more from Angelo. If you want to hear more from Jermaine, if you're in the program, you definitely know how to reach both Jermaine and Angelo. But Jermaine's also going to be one of our guest speakers at our GoCloud Careers Summit this in October in Orlando, Florida. He will be speaking there. So you'll get to hear more from Jermaine there at that opportunity as well. That's going to be a limited attendance. There's only a few slots left for that, but that's going to be coming up in October. So Tyrone put that link there in the chat box as well. But I really just want to wrap it up by just thanking Jermaine and Angelo for finding the time to join us today. You know, it's really hard for us to find people. It's really hard for us to schedule people to do live streams with us or to do shows with us that are out there working in the roles that you guys desire, because they're working. As you saw here, Angelo had to leave us at 5 for a meeting, and Jermaine was on standby from 4 to 4:30. It didn't end up getting called into that meeting, but had to leave at 5:30 to go to a meeting. So when we're able to do it, we make it happen, and it's always exciting. more often than not, it happens within our classes because they pop into classes at the last second and take over mine and Alonzo's classes when we're doing a class. That was fun. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
But I really want to thank them for sharing their experience and their knowledge and their expertise. And so a few last things. I just want to encourage everybody, sign up for that Cloud Architect Challenge that we're going to be having towards the end of this month. And yeah, for our students, I'm sorry. Sorry that I couldn't make it to class this morning. I'm almost out of a voice at this point, and I didn't even do very much talking today. So I've got some kind of cold or sinus infection. Doctor was worthless when I visited the hospital. So we're not even going to talk about that. Basically said, go take some Zyrtec, go take some Flonase, go take some ibuprofen, and if it's not better, come back. So here I am.
Yeah.
So if you're in our programs, I'm still going to try and make Thursday what I was going to do today, we'll do on Thursday. And then on Friday's class, we'll talk about the opportunities for projects and publications for our students. So that's the goal. Keep an eye on Slack for updates on the program and the classes. And the one thing that's for certain is Angelo is teaching on Saturday.
It's gonna be a ride.
All right. This has been fun. Give us a give us a hashtag Cloud Hired in the chat box so that I know that this wasn't off or not, and that you all enjoyed this. And if I say enough hashtag Cloud Hired, I'll stop talking. I think I'm turning into Mike.
All right, Mike. I don't have the buzzer, but I will make one for you.
There's a reason why I don't give you guys the buzzer. Somebody's got the buzzer.
He's buzzing himself.
I think that might have been Tyrone buzzing me. But all right, we got some Cloud Hireds. All right. Well, thank you all. We will see you all next week on Head in the Clouds. No Head in the Clouds tonight. This is what we did instead. So we will see you all next week. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining.